Recap. In chapter number 1, you saw me open the package containing Neeve knives co-offender and compare it to some other knives. I talked about design, took some human factor measurements, all that to feed the EDC scoreboard. Important stuff. I even showed you the blade's edge under the microscope and admired it with you. I then tortured that beautiful edge with a stack horn to determine the edge retention. And I am not done with it. In this video, we will look at durability, toughness, and overall construction quality of this knife, as well as the blade hardness. Welcome to the No BS Gear Review channel. Approximately 3/8 of the blade's length is inserted solidly into this wooden vise, and now I'm bending the blade to 15 degrees angle. This is a MagnaCut blade, and at 63 to 64 advertised HRC, the toughness of it is sloping down gently. Nothing gentle about how I'm bending this blade, and you can see the curvature if you look closely. What's the saying? My heart is in my mouth. I am really sickened by what I'm doing because I happen to like this knife, and I paid for it out of pocket, 300 smackaroons. But I cannot be stopped. Next, I'm going to twist the handle as hard as I can. And believe me, a handle as wide as this, I can put a lot of torque, which loads the bearings, the pivot, screws, stop pins, spacers to the extreme. And to those of you who think the knives aren't designed to pry, y'all watch this. Absolutely no damage that I can see. The action remains intact, just like out the box. And I can't see any bend in the blade. Take a look. Nope, nothing. But I'll check it out anyway. Oh, wait, what about the centering? It's on center. How about them cold cucumbers? Just in case I missed microbending, I'm putting it on this flat block to see if there's any rocking at the tip. And there is none. This knife is ready for what comes next. And that is our beloved hype smasher. First, I clamp the knife into this wooden clamp. And what I do here, I add this rubber piece to compress the locking bar. Because when you work with a knife, it's in your hand. And your finger actually holds that locking bar in place. That's what it looks like up close. Anyway, I think that's fair because I am not trying to defeat the knife here. I'm trying to show you what would happen in a case of striking accident. Clamping it in. So I want you to know that the knife is not completely rigid, although these rubberized steel bars emulate human hand quite well. In my non-medical opinion, the hype smasher itself is a modified arbor press where I removed the lever to allow this 2.5-pound bar freely drop at a distance of 6 inches. That exerts quite a bit of force on the blade and torque. So damage on some knives has happened. And that tells me it's a good test. When most knives pass it and some knives fail, that tells me that the experiment is quite well designed. It separates strong designs from the weak ones. Obviously, I marked off the 6-inch distance on the bar itself, and that's what I'm aiming. There is no way for me to test the lock in between the strikes on a lock bar or liner locks. And here's a little bit of slow-mo. How awesome is that? Anyway, let's take her out and see what she's made out of. I'd like to take a moment and thank my viewers who have purchased super things for some videos. That is the most inspiring experience a YouTuber can have. And now we're ready to check the action. There is no play. The click you heard was, however, the lock stick. So something did get shifted there. The action remained as perfect as straight out the box. I will have to check out why it's sticking. The blade centering is great, and I can still deploy it even using my lefty flick. If I struck it hard enough to cause some small deformation on the lock bar interface, potentially I could have cracked that supposedly weaker internal cutout on the lock bar itself. Of course, there is no cracking and deformation. Physics is physics. And that claim that they're weaker is BS. I am prepping the blade for hardness test, but since I had to take the knife apart to extract the blade, let's take a look inside. Very deep milling on both halves of the handle or the frame. The relief cut for the spring here for the bar is on the inside. And as I said, the stress transfers through here into here, and the highest risk area would be this corner because the material here is thinner because of this curvature. And I would probably have chosen a higher radius cutout here. Here's a pocket clip that everyone is talking about. Beautifully done. They milled it. I don't know. They you know, it's nicely done. Lots of steps to mill something like that. And I checked all these parts are titanium except for the stop pin. The pivot is pressed into this titanium piece here. I can't remove it, so it's interference fit, which is good, and you know it's one solid piece. But this part is titanium. Just this part is steel. All the screws are titanium, and the bearings are the only components that I'm not crazy about. And here's why. Let me find a good spot to grab it. So if you look closely, I don't know if you can see it here, some of the balls are recessed more than the others. Right here you can see that ball at 1 o'clock there. It sits deeper. And I don't know whether just the quality of the bearings or I did something or something happened during my test, most likely that twist test that you saw in chapter 1 video. But both bearings have that issue. Right here, I'm going to put it at 12 o'clock. The little ball at focus, the little ball here at 12 o'clock. So on each bearing, 2-3 balls are not in line with the others, which reduces the bearing force. But what I like, they pressed in these washers, and they, judging by how little wear and dimpling happened from all the testing, these are probably somewhat heat treated. And they don't come out, so you won't be able to lose it unless you pry it out. The titanium spacer here, nice shoulder pins holding it all together. Nice and flat here, beautifully machined. Jimping, I'm not particularly fond of a small jimping like this, but it's a different conversation. And definitely there's a room for a lanyard hole if they would have so chosen. I personally like lanyard holes. I know there's a whole movement against them, but I like them. So what else can I cover here? Yeah, so there's a little bit of a wear that accelerated from my test. So the locking face, let me see if I can get that darn camera to focus. There's a little bit of a face wear, and it started out at 40%, now it locks at 50%. No big deal. I probably accelerated the wear by a couple of years by doing what I do here on the channel. And the detent bolt is smaller than I expected, and the hole is large, but there's no play. So that's all that matters. So here there will be a slightly different routine because when I turn it on, I haven't tested anything since I filmed this knife being tested for another video to prove that my meter gives consistent results. And the value is still on there. And I'm just going to show you that this is still the same hardness here from test to test. So I'm going to strike it 5 times. And I explain how I do it and why I do what in so many videos. I'm going to do it today. Same result. And that must have because I struck the existing dimple from so many tests. So 3 more. And this knife consistently gives me between 63.5 and 64.5. 63.8 is the tested result. It's calibrated in Leeb points, Leebs. So this block is heat treated and certified to 787 Leeb points. And the small variation of 6 plus or minus 6 Leeb points is allowed. Each Leeb point is 0.07 HRC. So we're 3 above. Feel free to subtract it, but let me show you. It's pretty normal and well within tolerance of this device. So maximum variation on this allowed is, see, we're off by 1. So we're right there. I'm not, I can remove 0.07 HRC from the results, or 0.14 from the results, but I don't know if it matters. Really what I'm trying to show here, that this device stays consistently, as you can see, it's sat for a week and it's still consistent with its previous calibration. That's an excellent, excellent device. So, time to test the blade. I don't think, let me feel it here. See, it glides smoothly, almost feels magnetic, like it self-magnetizes. There's no liquid right now, so when I rub it, it feels a little sticky, right? And that stickiness comes from a very fine, flat grind. It's clear to me that they ground the final flatness post-heat treat, which is very important to me. For one reason, I don't have to do anything special. I don't need to flatten it for this test. So let's switch to HRC and turn the stopwatch on so you know that I'm not interrupting this test for any reason and not editing it. The sweep of the handle will show you that I'm not a good way to start with the outlier. Obviously something is not happening. I usually try a little more fluid here. There you go. Let's try it again. When I, even though it's ground flat, the flatness can vary still by enough to cause something. So I'm getting consistent 60. Yeah. Let's flip it on the other side. Maybe because one side could have heated up during grinding purpose, during grinding process. I'm going to pause here and actually flatten my piece here, and I use diamond plate for that. There could be some burr remaining. I don't know. I don't want to guess what's going on, but if there was any collector value here, well, it's my knife. I can do whatever I want with it. This is 800 grit. I had to do it to a lot of blades, and let me sort of get a smaller area involved, because there could be variations due to the deep cut between, like, flatness can change from here to here. So sorry, I'm doing a lot of explaining. So let's reset the whole thing. I am not getting there, folks. All right, so let me tell you what's happening here. As you saw, the first attempt set off alarm bells, so I flattened using my sharpening flat plates, diamond plates. I flatten as much as I can. As you can see, one side is a little bit concave right here. You can see that. This side is a little bit convex. And I even tried here, and I'm consistently getting weird low result. So I am going to show this to you, and feel like let down. $60.5. Let me do one over here. Yeah, I get 59 to 61. All right. I thought I was going to stop, but out of abundance of respect for the knives design, I went back and flattened more of this area so I can have as reliable of a result as I can possibly achieve here. Let's see what happens. I am getting 59 to 61 results, standard. Do I think that Jared is trying to fool the public here? Absolutely not. Don't put words in my mouth. Don't blame me for what you see here either. I think in earnest he believes that the company is delivering these blades at the hardness they agreed on when he was signing the deal with them. I don't know the details. Oh, that's an outlier. We'll delete that. But I think this test gives him grounds to go back and demand that when they deliver this model to the United States market, they certify at least 5 blades out of a batch. Which constitutes an acceptable statistical sample for a batch that size. Because right here, I consistently get 63.5 to 64.5 with a White River backpackable knife. All right, let's go over its scores. Blade length is not under 3 inches, so 0 points there. The weight is not under 4 ounces. 0 points there as well. Edge to weight ratio is only 0.8. One hand pocket insertion is a go, 1 point. Force in and out was above my preferable 2 to 4 pounds. Retention was great, a point there. There are 4 ways to flick this blade open, maybe 5 for some people, but I could only do 4. The detent force is excellent, well within the range. So very flicky action here. That's what I determined as a good force. Is it finger safe? No, it's a frame lock. It did not unlock on a smasher test. And there was no damage from the smasher, which is great news. 1 point there. It's definitely a complex alloy, space age alloy. It's a powder steel, gets an extra point there. And unfortunately, the heat treat was below advertised value and outside the preferable range for MagnaCut. The 15-degree bending test failed to break the tip off, and the blade remained straight. The knife remained rock solid after my torsion torture. There was a zero play after that. It definitely lost less than 30% of sharpness, and so we get 3 points. Below 20 would have gotten it 4 points. That's how I score these in reverse, kind of. The less loss in sharpness you have, the higher is the score. Behind the edge thickness is definitely below 30. Solid point there. It has an insanely hollow and high grind. Definitely a point there. But effective edge lacks on most Tantos. Now we get into the joy adjustments. I give 10% bump for all these categories. Material and quality is superior. Bragging rights definitely there. It's a designer and a famous one at that. It's definitely super corrosion resistant between MagnaCut and titanium. Blade shape is absolutely stunning. I personally think so. Retail price though, that hurts. Let's go back to the actual scores and see what we got. 19.8. So now I'm going to rearrange this entire column to show you where it lines up with the rest of the knives. And it ends up in an honorable 7th place. 7 knives scored higher in my tests, but 2 of them share the first spot. Next, we're going to reevaluate it based on our joy factors. Moving to the right and rearranging this column as well. Let me know in the comments what you think about the scoring and testing method. Looking forward to all the positive, awesome feedback from you all. 5th place in the joy department. And now we're moving into the bang for the buck scoring, where I take the joy score and divide it by the price. And then it's expressed in percentages. The higher this score, the less buyer's remorse you will get. And this one comes in at about 10th place. All right, let's get back to the actual objective score. Wait for it, a couple clicks, and here we are. We are still in the 7th place after 7 knives that are scoring above it. I think that was a decent effort. I think what messed this score up is the lackluster heat treat. While MagnaCut blade with this insane edge geometry will still perform well at that hardness, getting that extra point would have moved it above Kunwu Excalibur. Think about that.